Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, veterans deserve the best. The American Legion deserves the best. We're fortunate to have a racing team that represents the best in the popular NTT Data INDYCAR series. Team owner Chip Ganassi is himself a former racer and a member of the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. He's the only team owner in history to have won the Indianapolis 500, the Daytona 500, the Brickyard 400, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the 12 Hours of Sebring, and the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Ganassi teams have won 13 IndyCar championships and is the reigning 2020 champion with driver Scott Dixon. Driving the American Legion number 48 Honda in many of the races this season is a man who is a racing legend. Now, Jimmie Johnson is a 7-time NASCAR Cup champion. He shares with Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt for most Cup Series championships of all time. Our other driver, Tony Kanaan, is the 2004 IndyCar Series champ. He won the 2013 Indy 500 and in 2015 won the 24 Hours of Daytona for Chip Ganassi Racing. He led the number 48 car to an impressive 10th place finish in the 2021 Indianapolis 500. We're fortunate to have this trio with us today for a fireside chat. Moderating their discussion is John Olgene. John is the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communication for the Ganassi Racing Team. Prior to joining Chip, John was the LA Dodgers Public Relations Department for 15 years. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the American Legion number 48 race team, Chip Ganassi, Jimmie Johnson, Tommy Kanaan, and moderator John Olgene.
All right, Chip, let's start this off. So you have been in the sport for over 40 years, all right? How about talk a little bit about how the 1963 Indianapolis 500 and an 8mm film transported you into this 40-year history in racing.
Well, thank you, John. If you all have about 45 minutes, you can sit down now and I'll get into the story. No, I'll give you the short version. As John said, in 1963, I was 5 years old, and my father went to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He was in Indianapolis on a business trip, and he went over to the Indianapolis Speedway to take a tour. And he came back with an 8mm film of the 1963 race. And he brought it home. I was all of 5 years old. And we had one of those little Bell and Howell cameras, used to feed the film through the 8mm, camera, projector. And I must have watched the 1963 Indy 500 at least 1,000 times. And it was won by a guy named Parnelli Jones. You might be familiar with that name. Famous race driver, still around today. And so I saw Parnelli win in 1963, like I said, at least 1,000 times. And I was hooked on racing. I wanted to go racing. Somehow, by the time I was in my teens, I was racing cars in my late teens. And lo and behold, I was a rookie at Indianapolis in 1982, and I was all of 23 years old at that time, and Parnelli Jones actually signed off on my rookie orientation as a rookie that Indy, you've heard about, and you had to get 4 veteran drivers to sign off on your license, and Parnelli was one of my signatory people, and I became friends with Parnelli. Here I was 5 years old. I watched him win the Indy 500 on a film. I meet him when I'm 18 years old. We become friends, so much so that about 5 years ago, his son lives here just north of North Scottsdale, and I had my Thanksgiving dinner with him, I think when I was 55 years old. So something that, transcended from when I was 5 years old until I was 55. And to this day, Parnelli and I are still friends. And it all started with this 8mm film when I was 5 years old, and I was hooked on IndyCar racing ever since then.
That's pretty interesting, Chip. And the second thing I just wanted to follow up with is, I know you've had a ton of accolades. They read through a bunch of them, but it's also about relationships. And had a ton of relationships that you've created over the years, one of which was with the late Paul Newman. You want to talk about the last conversation that you had with Paul Newman and what that meant to you?
Well, I was very fortunate to befriend Paul Newman when he was involved in the sport for many years as a co-owner of Newman Haas Racing. We were fierce competitors Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but Monday through Friday we became great friends, and so much so he came to my wedding, and I think it extended my mother and my mother-in-law's life. I think I extended them about 10 years, just them meeting old Blue Eyes, and you ladies know what I'm talking about. And but anyway, I think what John's talking about is when someone passes, we always remember the last thing that we said to them. We always, I always remember the last thing I said. Gee, that guy passed away. The last thing I talked to him about was such and such. And I always remember the last thing. And it was in 2008. We'd won the Indianapolis 500 with Scott Dixon, and none of us had seen Paul at the racetrack for many months. And so after we win the race, you take a ride around the track in a pace car and wave to all the fans with the winner and the driver and the team owner. And I saw Paul in the pit lane, and he sort of stuck his hand up. You could tell he was very ill, and but he was there, and I gave him a high five as I went by, and I hadn't seen him in months, and so the following week we go from Indianapolis to Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's the next race, and on Sunday morning, one of his handlers came over and he said, "Hey," he said, "Paul's over in the bus. He wanted to talk to you." So I go over to his motorhome, and it's just he and I talking. And I remember it was one of those conversations. It was one of the first times this had happened to me, and I remember because about 10 minutes into a 20-minute conversation, I realized why I'm there. I'm there because it's the last conversation we're going to have, and he knew it. And suddenly I knew it. And we're sort of reminiscing about a lot of things that we'd done together and the fun we'd had, and I have to tell you, there's some colorful language here coming up, so bear with me, please. But we're having just a great conversation that two friends have, and one of his woman handlers comes in and said, "Hey guys," stuck her head in the bus. She said, "Hey," she said, "they just said, gentlemen, start your engines. You need to get out there." And I thought, oh my, we're going to miss the race. In those days, I was calling the race. And so I stood up. I'm like, okay. And I was a little uncomfortable, like, what do you say to somebody when you know it's your last conversation you're having? And I just said, "Hey, man, we've had a great time together. Peace be with you." And he said, "Yeah, you too. We've had a great time." I said, "Thanks." And I go up to the front of the bus, and I walk out. And I look back, and I said, "Hey," I said, "you never congratulated me for winning the Indy 500 last week." He said, "I know. Screw you." And that was the last thing Paul Newman ever said to me.
That's great.
And I could tell you, it wasn't exactly "screw you." It was, you can interpolate what he really said.
That's great, Chip. Jimmie, lots of accolades as well, championships and on and on and on, 84 odd wins in NASCAR, but you've kind of taken on a new endeavor here in INDYCAR. How did that conversation in your head go, conversation with Chip, to decide to do this?
Yeah, I've always dreamed of being an IndyCar driver. That was really the original dream growing up for me. I grew up in Southern California. My generation of racing, NASCAR wasn't mainstream that it is today. And my opportunities that I had really kind of led me in that direction. But my sponsor at the time, Chevrolet, was pulling out of NASCAR pulling out of IndyCar, and said if I wanted a future in motorsports, NASCAR is what I need to look at. So I followed that and pursued it, and it was wonderful and great. But all along, I've kept a very close eye on IndyCar. Many friends in the IndyCar paddock, three of them sitting here today, many drivers, other team owners, and I've just always had a watchful eye on the sport. And I've even mentioned a few things to Chip in passing over the last 10 years or so. And then last spring, I guess, that conversation got a little more serious. And Chip said, "Man, if you want to come drive a car, come on, we'll do it. We'll throw you in a car and give you a try." And driving the car was even better than I could have expected, and really got me excited to make this switch and to give IndyCar a shot.
So has the process been what you expected, harder, easier? Where does that all sit with you at this point?
I'm going to go with harder, for sure. You know, you'd think that driving a car with four wheels would be the same if it was a NASCAR vehicle or IndyCar vehicle, but they are much different. I am closing the gap and getting much more comfortable in understanding the car, but each week I find myself on a new track. So in addition to learning the car, I'm also learning these new tracks, and just really enjoying it, though. Trying to keep my goals, you know, in the right spot. I'm surrounded by amazing people at Chip Ganassi Racing, you know, closing that gap to the leaders and becoming more competitive each weekend.
Great.
Let me interrupt you 1 second, John. I don't mean to do this, Jimmie, and I put you on the spot, but you said something interesting to me yesterday, and you repeated it this morning when we were walking in, and I'd like you to tell the ladies and gentlemen in the audience here. It was a threshold moment in a race driver's career, and maybe you could, you know what I'm talking about? You said yesterday I went into.
Oh, yes.
Right.
So yesterday,
this is a great story as a race driver, and I want you each just to hear this from somebody that's a multi-time champion, a superstar of the sport. You got to hear what he has to say here.
well, Chip was kind enough to let me experience something, help me experience something for the first time again. One was the IndyCar last July, and we know where I am today. And two is yesterday I had my first opportunity to drive on an oval at Texas Motor Speedway. And I went the fastest I have ever gone in a race car through a turn. And as a driver, there is nothing like that moment and putting that new high score up there.
Right.
Great. Well, so just for those that don't know, Tony drives the ovals this year, and Jimmie has driven the road courses, so this was his first time on an oval in an IndyCar.
Yeah, it's been an amazing partnership to see Tony in the car on the weekends in the ovals and carrying the American Legion on the car and doing such a great job. It's really only piqued my interest. I came and watched him in the Indy 500, and I watched all my friends go by on the opening lap, and I thought, man, I really feel like I should try this someday. So we're in that process now of understanding if that's something I want to do, and yesterday was that first step, and it was a lot of fun.
Great. I want to turn it over to this young man here. And for those who haven't spoken to Tony before, he has a bit of an accent, and it's not from Alabama. He's Brazilian. And so, Tony, lots of great drivers have come through Brazil. Talk about how you got into racing and growing up in Brazil that led you to racing.
I'm going to correct you. I'm American now. So.
Good for you. He did become an American citizen in 2014.
2014, my wife is American. All my kids are Americans. And I guess my wife tells me that I marry her to become an American, but we'll go with that. It doesn't matter. Well, you know, growing up in Brazil, there are two sports that are huge there. It's soccer and racing. And my father was a huge racing fan. My dad never raced. It was kind of like Chip's story. I mean, we used to go and watch races together all the time, either on TV. In Brazil, Formula One was more popular than IndyCar back in the day, so we used to watch races on Sunday on TV. And then when Formula One went to Brazil, he used to take me to the track to watch the races on the grandstands. And when I was 8 years old, he took me to a go-kart track to watch a race. Rubens Barrichello was racing, which is a dear friend of mine. I didn't know him at the time, and I actually asked my dad for a go-kart. We left the racetrack straight to the factory, and he bought me a go-kart that day. So that's how I started it. Dad watched me race from when I was 8 until I was 13. Unfortunately, he got really sick. He got cancer for 3 years when I was 10 years old. And leading to Chip's story, I remember exactly my dad's last words to me in the hospital on a Thursday night. He asked my mother to bring me to the hospital because he wanted to speak to me. And his last words to me was obviously to take care of my family, never leave my mom and my sister hanging, but for me to never give up racing and win the Indy 500 for him one day. And he passed that night. So I think I did well.
So
Hopefully
talk about
proud.
that. So talk about that Indy 500. Seminal moment in your life.
Man, you know, it's one of those things. I mean, we went through obviously a tough time after I lost him. You know, I had to support my mom and sister. I quit school to keep racing, but made it to America, right? Made it to America, was able to fulfill my dream, became an IndyCar driver. I won the championship in '03. Chip and I tried to drive for Chip for years. We never really worked it out, and we finally made it. But in 2013, it was probably my last year in IndyCar. I got actually fired from a team that I was racing with, that I won the championship with. The sponsor, you know, just left, and we didn't have a car to race. So during the off season, I was without a team. And Jimmie Vasser, which is a guy that actually raced for Chip, won championships for him, had a very small team. And we kind of like put some numbers together and said, well, we have enough budget to race the first 4 races, which the 4th race of the year was the Indy 500. So we put this thing together. It was a pretty good team, but never really had achieved a lot. And we show up there, and you know, obviously leading to, I had led 12 Indy 500s before, never had one. Something was always happening to me. People was always like, they would come and ask me during the month of May, is this your year? Are you going to be well known as one of the greatest that never wins? And I never really believed that. And that year, we started 10th. We got to the lead, and we beat the team that fired me the year before, which was sweet. And then, obviously, if you guys ever watched that race, when I crossed start-finish line, usually we celebrate fist up and I actually, it was naturally, I didn't even realize until somebody pointed out, but I was pointing it up saying, told you I was going to do it, Dad. So that was for him. So
That's great. So Tony, I've heard you talk about this a number of times this year. I know you became an American citizen earlier in 2014, but now that you drive the American Legion car and people are coming up to you all the time and saying things to you, what are they saying, and how's that made you feel?
it was amazing, right? I mean, through the course of the years, I think I became extremely popular in Indianapolis, probably because I was trying to win that race so bad and never succeed. And so my fan base there, it's huge. And then this year, you know, after 23 years in IndyCar, you don't think you can gather more fans or more appreciation. It's just there. And as soon as we announced this deal, I cannot tell you guys how many text messages from veterans, people that they said, my dad, it's an American Legion member. My grandfather, I mean, it's been amazing how many people approach. I have so many coins now that I can't, it's so awesome. Like, and you know, getting to know more about the Legion and getting to know more what you guys do, and trying to, even now, obviously, we're trying to help the cause with the suicide. It's an honor. I mean, I can't tell you how emotional for me was to race that car at the 500. I mean, we had some names in that car. They were extremely heavy, and knowing more and more, I mean, I can't thank you guys enough to fulfill our dreams and my dream to still compete in the Indy 500. But yeah, I gained some more fans, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. Jimmie, so you have a history of people in your family serving in the military and now also working with the American Legion. How has that felt for you with, I know your grandparents and so on have served, now being part of the American Legion family?
It's a massive honor, and thank you, everyone. It's really been an amazing year, as Tony pointed out, to meet different Legionnaires at the racetrack, to share the same pride we have for the race car and the competition. And even yesterday, spending time with a few of the folks and helping them understand what it's like to be behind the wheel of a car and being out of control. So I think it's been a fantastic partnership, and one that I have a ton of pride in. My mom's father served in the Navy, and my dad's father was in the Army. I have a brother-in-law that served in the Navy as well, so definitely a part of the framework of the Johnson family and my wife's side on the Janway side.
Sure. So you've also had the luxury, and I think all of us have learned over the last year or so, all the amazing things that the American Legion has done, the GI Bill and on and on. Now they're tackling something new which is veteran suicide, and you got to participate in a PSA commercial. What was that like, and what's it like being part of that message?
Well, I think many civilians in the country understand that it's difficult to come back from serving, but I don't think many really understand the depths of that. And for myself, it was a big education. And then to be able to do the PSA and to help get that word out to everyone else has been really impactful, and certainly something that we need to correct, and we need to be there for those vets returning and try to surround them with what they need to come back into civilian life. So it's something I'm very proud to be a part of, and excited to really make a difference with that initiative.
Great. So Chip, certainly last but not least, your father served in the military. You've represented in racing many, many major brands, but what's it like to now also add to that list a brand like the American Legion?
Well, first of all, I don't want to repeat what Tony and Jimmie said, but it's an honor. It's an honor to represent this organization, I can tell you. It amazes me week after week, the commanders, the local people coming up, thanking me, and for the effort, for the organization, for what we're doing, what we're trying to do for the American Legion in terms of veteran suicide and what have you. But just an awareness, they're thanking me, and all I can think of when, and it happens to me every single day, when all I can think of when you're thanking me is, I want to thank you, okay? This is a hot topic these days, about service and about just what the American Legion has done in the past, what it's going to do in the future. The reason you were able to talk about that stuff is because of all of you, and because of the groundwork and the foundations that you've laid as an organization. And to go to to talk about even going to the next step, having an organization embrace an organization like ours means a lot. But to make that effort to take the next step in what you're doing is very powerful. So, but at the end of the day, you don't have to thank me. I want to thank you for your service and everything you've done for this country over the years, and what we all hope to do for this country in the future. Thank you.
Honestly, I don't know if there's a better way to finish than on that note. That is an absolute perfect note. Again, I think on behalf of Chip, Jimmie, and Tony, thank you all for your service. We very much appreciate representing you, and again, we couldn't be more proud. So thank you.
Gentlemen, if y'all stand fast. Ladies and gentlemen, our American Legion Racing team. Chip, thank you. Good work.
Good morning, the American Legion, Anthony speaking. How can I help you?
Hello. Hey, this is Jimmie Johnson from Chip Ganassi Racing. Your voice sounds really familiar. Do I know you from somewhere?
Jimmie Johnson, the football coach? No, we never met. How can I help you?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm here at the race shop and cannot find the 48 race car. So I'm busy calling all of our sponsors, wondering if one of you have it.
No, not here. Wrong number.
That is odd.
That was close.
Have you seen a race car now?
I haven't seen it anywhere. Not from Barber.
I even called the American Legion and they don't know where it is.
I was wondering the same thing.
Alright.
All right.
Okay, I gotta find this race car. I have been looking everywhere for it. Oh, what is that on the cover? Looks like an Indy car, but that thing.
548 car, the American Legion is leading with Tony Kanaan, the legend. He's going to win for the second time. He's going to drink the milk across the finish line. He's going to kiss the bricks.
What?
He wins!
Seriously?
Yeah!
What
Hi-
in the world
hi,
are you
Jimmie.
doing?
Do you like my car?
I do. I mean, this thing looks amazing, but I've been looking all over for it
Oh, it's been here the whole time.
the whole time.
Yeah. Did you like it?
Yeah, and what was that little
Actually-
conversation you were
Oh,
having?
the legend won the race today.
The
Can you
legend.
take a picture of me? The legend.
Seriously.
Tony Kanaan, the legend.
You want to take a picture of you?
Come on, Instagram. Come on. Thank you, Jimmie.
Hey everyone, Jimmie Johnson here. Chip Ganassi Racing has a big announcement to make today, and I'm really excited to be the one to deliver this message on Giving Tuesday. And the deal is, we have a new partner and a new sponsor for the number 48 car. It's the American Legion. Super excited to have them on board, and I really look forward to sharing more about what they do for our country.
I'm Tony Kanaan, and I'm so proud to be part of Chip Ganassi Racing Team with my good friend Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie announced earlier today on social media that the American Legion is joining our team, and we both could not be more proud and excited. I'm the lucky driver who will be actually driving the American Legion car on May 1st in the Texas race, and then in the 150 Indy 500 on May 31st. It'll be such an honor to represent the American Legion and the veterans in those two races. As most of you know, today is Giving Tuesday, and Jimmie and I are asking all our fans to celebrate our new teammate, the American Legion, by making a gift today. Visit legend.org/48 and make a $48 donation to honor the number 48 car and a veteran you know and love. Your donation is 100% tax deductible, and it will support programs and services that help veterans and their families every day. We're trying to raise $148,000 today, so feel free to shout. Hi, I'm Tony Kanaan. At the Indy 500, I'll be representing the American Legion and the veterans they serve in the number 48 car. I'll also be getting in my miles for the American Legion 100 Miles for Hope Challenge. If you haven't joined the challenge yet, sign up at legion.org/100 miles. With your support, the American can continue to help veterans and their families in times of need. Don't miss me in the number 48 car. See you at the starting line.